Here is a map of the sprawling concrete jungle of New York City, encompassing a staggering 784 square kilometers of prime real estate. Next, let's venture across the pond to witness the majestic beauty of London, covering a vast 1,572 square kilometers. Now let me take you to the tiny but mighty island nation of Singapore, with a land area of only 721 square kilometers. And you can see that Singapore is just about half the size of these urban giants. But let me tell you, do not be deceived by its dimensions. This small island nation has achieved the extraordinary, managing to accommodate a population of over 6 million citizens with impeccable efficiency. Now you must be thinking, how does Singapore manage to house so many people in such a limited space? And how does it ensure that housing is affordable, accessible, and attractive for its citizens? Well, the answer lies in Singapore's public housing program, which has been running for over 60 years and has transformed the country from a slum-ridden colony to a modern metropolis. Public housing in Singapore is not like public housing in other countries. It's not a last resort for the poor or marginalized, but a mainstream option for the majority of the population. The country's housing model is unique and complex, blending market and centrally planned elements to achieve various social and economic goals. But this wasn't always like this, in case you're wondering, because Singapore is a small island nation with limited land availability, which made it challenging to build enough housing to meet the demands. During British colonial rule, Singapore had an underdeveloped housing infrastructure that led to overcrowding and poor living conditions once it experienced an uptick in immigration. And in the post-independent period, Singapore's population grew rapidly in the post-independence period, leading to a housing shortage. Moreover, the private housing market in Singapore was unable to meet the demand for housing, leading to a shortage of affordable homes. To resolve this issue, model public housing was first built in Singapore by the Singapore Improvement Trust in the late 1920s. However, the crown jewel of Singapore's housing solution lies in its public housing program, known as the Housing Development Board. Launched in the 1960s, the Housing Development Board was established to take over the role of the SIT in order to provide affordable and quality housing for the people of Singapore. To achieve this goal, the HDB adopted an integrated approach that combined land acquisition, housing supply, financing, and urban planning. The HDB acquired large tracts of land from private owners at low prices through compulsory purchase orders and capped the land purchases prices to prevent speculation. The HDB also introduced a range of financing schemes to make housing affordable for everyone, such as subsidized loans, grants, savings schemes, and lease buyback options. And to overcome the space constraint, HDB then built high-rise apartment blocks with various sizes and designs to cater to different needs and preferences. So the majority of the housing in Singapore looks like this, the iconic vertical living. Now, talking about the success and key aspects of the HDB program in solving Singapore's housing issues, one of the most innovative features of Singapore's public housing program is the home ownership scheme, which was launched in 1964 to encourage Singaporeans to buy their own homes instead of renting them. The scheme allowed eligible buyers to use their compulsory pension savings, known as Central Provident Fund, to pay for their down payment and monthly mortgage installments of their HDB flats. This was not only a pressing requirement at the time, but Singaporeans could also develop equity in their homes and enjoy better security and stability in the future. The initiative also instilled a sense of ownership and pride in inhabitants, who were more likely to maintain their apartments and neighborhoods. Today, over 80% of Singapore's population lives in HDB flats, and the home ownership rate is over 90%, one of the world's highest rates. Another key aspect of Singapore's public housing program is the social integration policy, which was implemented in 1989 to promote racial harmony and social cohesion among Singapore's diverse ethnic groups. The policy requires that each HDB block and neighborhood reflect the national racial composition as closely as possible so that no ethnic group becomes dominant or isolated. The policy also ensures that different income groups live together in mixed communities rather than being segregated by class or wealth. Apart from these features, Singapore's urban planners were outstanding in incorporating amenities into housing development. Residents have easy access to parks, schools, community centers, and retail malls, which promote a sense of community and convenience. Moreover, recognizing the importance of sustainable living, Singapore has embraced eco-friendly architecture and green initiatives. These high-rise living housing schemes not only accommodate more people but also allow for greener communal spaces at ground level. From solar panels to rainwater harvesting, these innovations promote a greener and more sustainable future. Moving on, Singapore's public housing program has been widely praised as one of the best in the world, as it has successfully provided quality and affordable housing for millions of people, while also creating a vibrant and livable city that attracts talent and investment. However, the program is not without its challenges and limitations, such as aging population and infrastructure. As Singapore's population ages, the demand for elderly-friendly housing and facilities increases. The HDB has to upgrade and retrofit its older flats and estates to meet the changing needs and preferences of its residents. The HDB also has to deal with the issue of lease expiry, as most HDB flats have a 99-year lease that will eventually run out. Moreover, critics have noted that public housing owners in Singapore risk losing their housing when their leases expire. Also, while the HDB flats are generally well built, critics argue that the standardized designs have led to a lack of architectural diversity and character, making some neighborhoods feel repetitive. Housing affordability and inequality. Despite the various subsidies and grants that the HDB offers, some low-income households still struggle to afford or access public housing, especially in times of economic downturn or social disruption. The HDB also faces competition from the private housing market, which can drive up prices and widen the gap between the rich and the poor. An indicator of housing affordability is the price-to-income ratio. This ratio increased from 3.33 to 4.07 in the built-to-order market and from 3.98 to 4.23 in the resale HDB market between 2001 and 2021, showing that housing affordability has decreased. So there are some challenges that Singapore's public housing program faces in the 21st century. But given its track record and reputation, HDB will be able to overcome them and continue to provide quality and affordable housing for all Singaporeans. In fact, in February 2023, the issue of housing affordability and availability was covered in the 2023 budget by the Finance Minister and was actively debated in Parliament. Now, measures have been introduced to help further support first-home buyers, specifically first-time families with children and young married couples below age 40. Housing grants might also increase to help Singaporeans buy an HDB resale flat as their first home. And with Singapore's determination to never settle for mediocrity, the future looks bright and the country will surely overcome these negatives. So that's all for today's video. Hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more interesting topics. Thanks for watching.